You so much everyone for waiting, and hello and assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Omar Bashir and I'm an Education USA advisor based in the Karachi office, and I recently joined Education USA. Our session today is for anyone thinking to pursue their master's or PhD degrees in the US, and we will be talking about funding your graduate studies in the US today. So before we begin, a little brief description about what Education USA is. Education USA in Pakistan is a part of a US Department of State network of over 430 international student advising centers and in more than 175 countries and territories. The network promotes higher education in the United States by offering accurate and comprehensive information. Education USA Pakistan is your official source of information of higher education in the United States. We also offer free advising services. We also have an app now. You can use this app to chat with the advisors during work hours and get event alerts and access our frequently asked questions and much more. So if you research the college application process in the United States, it can be a bit daunting. However, Education USA has broken the steps into 5 simple steps. And today we're going to talk about the second step, which is financing your studies. So today's agenda is we have broken into 3 different parts. We are going to speak about understanding your cost, which is going to lead us to planning your budget. And then lastly, we are going to talk about graduate funding options. You guys, if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to put it in the Q&A, and we will have that session towards the end of the presentation. So understanding cost system in the United States is crucially important because this cost system in each country is different. So the cost system in the United States is different than the cost system in Pakistan. So master's program generally in the United States can vary from 2 to 3 years. If you are planning to attend a public or state institution, your per year tuition would be $30,000. If you're planning to attend a master's at a private institution, your yearly tuition would be $62,000 or even more. And if you're planning to get your PhD in the US, you're looking anywhere between $28,000 to $40,000. And please keep in mind, these figures do vary from state to state and from university to university. So we will talk a little bit about pre-arrival cost. Before you depart for the United States, there will be some costs associated that you will have to incur, and you will have to take this cost into account. Firstly, when you apply for graduate schools, you will have to pay for application fee, which can be between $80 to $150. And then based on what type of testing the school is asking for, you will take those kind of tests. Just make sure that you know what type of test the standardized testings the school is asking for, because the prices of these tests are different and they're extremely high. So once you have received your admissions in the US university and you have received your I-20 from one of the institution, you are getting ready to file for the visa. When you fill out the DS-160, you have to pay $160. And then you also have to pay the service fee, which is $350. These fees are mandatory, they're not optional. Also, when you're applying for universities in the US, they would ask you to get your transcripts evaluated, and you would have to go through the agencies that will evaluate your transcripts. And typically it would be $200 because they ask you to get course by course evaluation. And that also goes in details, and it gives the institution more details about the credits that you already have and what it would substitute to according to US credentials. So the basic cost of evaluation would be $200 to $217, although the cost is we have written 250 because you may have to pay for the delivery charges, and also how fast would you like to receive your documents? That's also one thing you would have to consider. So in the US, when you're looking into schools, you will have to look into total cost of attendance, which includes tuition fees along with the living costs, which are they both are different, and they both have different things. They're both are accumulated with different things. Your tuition fees is different than your living costs. Your tuition fees would include educational instructions, facilities, lab equipment, and library. On other hand, your living cost would include room and board where you will be living, your food, your books and supplies, transportation, personal expenses, health insurance, some other costs that may be incurred while you are in the US. So this is understanding total expenses. Let's see, you have received financial aid, and your financial aid is $80,000, and we have given you a breakdown of the cost of attendance in the US. Like your tuition would be $50,000, your activity fee would be $1,200, your housing is another, your meals are different. So we are going to talk about how to compare I'm using Karachi as an example because this is where we're based at. So there is this website called Numbeo. You are more than welcome to get onto this website and compare the cost differences. It can give you you can compare the countries. You can compare Pakistan in a different country. You can compare Pakistan and the US. And if you want to get more into details, you can compare cities as well. Specifically here, we are comparing Karachi and Boston. It doesn't mean you have to go to Boston just because we have chosen Boston here. We're just using a hypothetical example here, Karachi versus Boston, because Boston is something I really liked Boston because I visited. So when you look at the comparison, you can see everything is expensive. The milk, 1 liter in Karachi is $194, and then when you go to Boston, it's double to $312. So this website is great when you're comparing cost in Karachi or any other state that you're going to the US. It will be very important that you know how much the groceries would be, because you're going to put this down in your budget, and this is going to be added cost in your budget. So now we are moving on to planning a budget. So how much money will you need? So understanding your personal and family affordability is extremely instrumental. You must know how much you can afford after understanding the cost. So for example, if a university of your choice has a cost of attendance of $40,000, how much of that you would be able to pay versus how much funding you can get. Your budget needs to be indicative of that. But a university may accept you but not offer any financial assistance, versus a university may accept you and give you 40% of assistance. So when you are planning a budget, there are a couple of things that you can keep in mind. There are public and private institutions in the US, and then there are rural and urban areas in the US. So private institutions are relatively expensive than the public institutions. However, private institutions have more scholarship options, whereas public institutions does not have as much scholarship options, and the private institutions also have limited major options, whereas public has more degree options. To define urban areas, they're more expensive, big cities like LA, and then rural areas are very small cities which are still developing. So the cost of living in different parts of the United States can vary tremendously. In general, living in urban areas is more expensive than living in smaller towns or rural areas. Renting an apartment in a big city can cost twice as much as it does in a smaller town, because there is such a high demand for housing. In large US cities, likewise, food, transportation, clothing, entertainment, and other living expenses may be more in a city. Students should ask themselves 3 questions when considering setting up a school. The first one is, what is the educational value of the particular setting? The second question would be, how does the setting enrich your social life? And lastly, is there a way in which if you're inclined to be involved with the community beyond the gates of the campus. If students' goal is to attend a private university but does not have enough funds to support living expenses, then you should look for a university in rural area. A good example of a university would be Cornell University. On the other hand, if student is looking for a university on a bit cheaper side, but prefers to live in an urban area due to a certain lifestyle or personal preferences, then a good example would be University of California, Berkeley. So planning educational costs, going to college is expensive, but it can be managed if you strategically plan it. And if you strategically plan it. Only apply for financial aid if you need it, because applying for it can also hurt your applications. I would give you an example. Parents will say they will only pay your tuition full if you get into Harvard, Yale, or Princeton. You can get a great education from a school that it's not an Ivy League school or incredibly popular school. So it is very important that you plan your cost. Family members can also come into an action here. If you have family in the US, you can live with your family. This will deduct any extra cost in your budget. Also, if you don't want to live with your family in the US, then maybe you can live close by to your family and closer to the university. And then your family in the US can probably contribute in giving you food or any like transportation help or stuff like that. So also you can look into sponsorship options. You can reach out to your current employer and let them know that you're interested to study abroad in the US and see if they're ready to sponsor your education. And again, you can reach out to family members apart from living with them in the US or them giving you transportation help. You can ask your family members in the US or in Pakistan if they are ready to give you any kind of other financial help. And as soon as you know that you want to go to the US, we recommend students to develop your budget as early as possible because it's going to help you in the long run. So when you're looking for universities in the United States, please know each state has different expense level and they're unique in their own way. We recommend to students to look for a school based on affordability and then match it with the state. And here is like some states that we have top 10 states, 10 states that are affordable and 10 states that are expensive. Now, you also have to see what is the minimum wage in that states and if the affordability in these states are going to match your budget. So now let's take a look at these two schools, Arizona State and Duke University. So we are comparing these two schools when looking at tuition and fee structure for US universities. Please pay attention to international student fee, since there are different institution and fee structure for different students. International student fee is composed of a variety of things, so you should be aware of the figures. Also, please pay attention on overall cost of attendance for international students, because that will include most of the amount you will owe the college. But keep in mind at the same time that cost of attendance can change per semester or it can change per year. Sometimes you may come across that cost of attendance that was listed on your I-20 was higher than what you actually spent. Also, some university might have extra fees associated in your student account, such as a technology fee or library fee. These kind of fees are essential. So library fees and technology fees are essential because you cannot ask for a refund. Library fee at graduate level is very important because you access the library online and you can get the content like as journals or different papers published by professors or professionals to do your own research. So you don't have to be in the library physically. You can access that library online and incorporate in your research. So we are also comparing the school because one of the school, Duke, is a private institution and Arizona University is a state institution. So you can see the comparison and the prices, comparison in terms of prices. The total cost of attendance at Duke University is $91,702, whereas a state university can be 53,284 for a graduate student. Please keep in mind these figures can change per semester or per year. So don't just think that 91,000 is going to be confirmed for the rest of the 5 years. It can change every semester or by year. So now we are at our last and the most important part of the webinar. Funding is always a question when attending universities in the US. Getting scholarships or funding at graduate level can be competitive. However, international students still have options, and we will discuss in this section. So different types of financial assistance that you may have at the graduate level would be the first one would be, of course, scholarships. You're going to look for different types of scholarship options that they may have. You get scholarship based upon your achievements and your test scores and special talents and other personal characteristics. So scholarships based on your academic achievement would be your grades in undergraduate level, and then also your standardized testing, which could be SAT, GMAT, GRE, and stuff of that nature. At graduate level, there are graduate assistantship, and we will talk in details about them. One of them is research, then comes teaching, and then fellowship. Let's say you're not able to secure scholarships or graduate assistantships. F1 students are allowed to work on campus for 20 hours when the school is in session per week. And then if you can also work 40 hours in like summer breaks and winter breaks. Do know that they are not, this amount that you're going to earn from an on-campus employment is not going to pay for your tuition. It would only pay for meals, or probably it could help you pay partially rent or transportation. So please don't think that you will go to the US and you will get a job on campus and you would be able to fund your whole education. That would not be possible. So some scholarship options that we have here, independent scholarships. Independent scholarships you can find on your institution's webpage by going into their financial aid section, and you can see what type of independent scholarship that institution accepts. Cultural scholarship is something where you go into the institution and institutions give you international, some institutions just give you scholarship just because you're an international student, and in return they would ask you to participate in their festival, international festival, where you're going to showcase your country. In your case, it would be Pakistan. And then we have Fulbright scholarship, and we're going to talk more about Fulbright scholarship in the next slide. So Fulbright is a degree program for master's and PhD level coursework. Fulbright scholarship program of the US is a part of US Department of State. Fulbright scholarships are offered in more than 160 countries, and Pakistan has been on the top since 2005. The applications are now open. We are taking applications, and the deadline is April 12th. So the Fulbright, they have some stipulations and there are some requirements to applying for Fulbright. One of them is going to be GRE score. GRE is a mandatory test that you have to take if you apply for Fulbright, and you have to score 145 on the section, on each section. And then you have to have personal statement that you have to write about yourself, where you started in your life, what you achieved, what you did, if you worked, what kind of degrees you have already. It's basically where you started and where you are right now. And your study research objectives are something that what you would like to study and how that is going to help you and the country. And then the 3 reference letters are required, and these 3 reference letters could, if you're working, you can get it from your employers. And if you're in school, you can get it from your faculty members. And then scanned transcript. are also required. We understand some students are going to be graduating this year. If you, and the application closes on April 12th, if you are able to provide us with your transcript by December of 2023, your application would be acknowledged. So what is Fulbright covering? As Fulbright is fully funded, it will cover cost of tuition, which means the whole tuition and fees would be paid. All your books material will be paid. You will be getting your airfare, like your flight will be covered. Your accommodation is covered wherever you're living in the US, on campus or on off campus, your assistance with the visa, all the fees associated with visa will also be paid. And on top of that, you're also going to get monthly stipend that will be determined by the program. And also your health insurance is also going to be paid. So it's a very great scholarship for students who are planning to apply for graduate school in the United States. So a little bit more about graduate assistantship. If you're not planning to apply for Fulbright and you want to independently apply for the graduate programs in the US, then, and you're looking for funding, one option would be GA-ship. What happens is that you, let's say you're going for MBA, your business degree and master's, you would apply for graduate assistantship with the department. And what if you are able to avail that opportunity, then sometimes what happens is that they will pay you monthly stipend, and in return they will ask you to grade papers and post the grades in the student portal. And then also sometimes they will ask you to do some admin work. Sometimes graduate assistantship is completely like it will cover your tuition at 100%, but it's extremely competitive to get that type of graduate assistantship. Also, there is research assistantship, is similar benefits, although the work responsibility changes. It will, in research assistantship, you will help professor conduct research and you will be editing the professor's papers so they're ready to publish. So this is for master's level. If you're getting your PhD in the United States, there are fellowships. Fellowship can vary depending on this discipline you're applying for PhD. But the simplest definition is a funding award given to subsidize the cost of education in the academic setting. So what happens in the fellowships is that your whole PhD degree is covered by the school or the university, and in return you're helping the professors teach a course, you're helping professors grade the papers or the material the student has submitted. You're running a lab. If you are in a STEM degree program, you're basically supervising the students who are junior to you, and you're also doing admin work for the department. So you have to start looking for fellowships and the graduate assistantship way early in the program, or even before, or you can also look for these fellowships or assistantship when you're looking up for your universities. You have to apply for them way in advance because they don't have like a lot of seats. They have 25 or 30 seats available for assistantship. So they get filled up very quickly. So it's recommended that you apply for fellowship and assistantship way in advance. So now we have two case scenarios in our webinar today where I will be showing you once you receive an I-20 from your school, how would it look? One is with funding and one is without funding. So this is this I-20 where a student has received and they have not received any funding from the school and they're solely paying it by themselves. So once you receive an I-20 from your school, there are going to be different sections. The first section is going to have your personal details, and then the second section is going to have the school information. And then the third section is going to have the program of study, what you're doing, how long would it take, what is your major, and if you're proficient in English or not. And then comes financial. This is very important. This is where the visa officer is also going to look at how are you paying, how much is your tuition, and how much funding you have received from the school. So this student, this is their cost of attendance for 9 months. This is an average cost. Their tuition and fees is $26,000, and their living expense is $20,000, and their health insurance is almost $3,000, and their total for 9 months is coming up to $50,000. They have not received any funding, and their family is the one who is contributing and paying for the student. They're not even using their own personal funds. And then the second I-20 that we have is the student who has received scholarship and teaching assistance. So you can get scholarship as well as teaching assistantship. It doesn't have to be just one thing. It can be a combination of both. And then you can also, on top of that, you can also have on-campus employment. But just know that you wouldn't be allowed to work more than 20 hours with the combination of the teaching assistantship and the employment on campus. So the student also has a dependent with them. If you are married and you would like to take your spouse with you, you would have to show and prove that you're able to cover the expenses of your spouse that you're taking with you, and their expense for 9 months on this I-20 is $3,000. So this is a very good funding the student has received. Again, guys, this is a sample I-20 that we are using. We are not using anyone's personal I-20. How to get maximum funding at the graduate level. We recommend students taking GMAT, GRE, all standardized testing that they can take. It doesn't hurt you. It increases your chances of getting more scholarships that are available out there. And then, at graduate level, when you're going for a master's degree, you need to have your GPA at 3.0 to even get assistantship. So make sure that you have a very well-maintained GPA and demonstrate English proficiency, because, if you are doing assistantship with the professor and your English is not up, if any your English is limited, you're going to face some difficulties because they're looking for students who can definitely help the professors teach their class or even grade their work. And then if you're doing research assistantship, they want to make sure that your English is well, where you can detect grammatical errors. So as I mentioned earlier, start looking for assistantships and fellowships early. They tend to fill up very quick, and funding is decreased as you get closer to the school start date. Make use of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great way to socialize professionally. A lot of professors would post their assistantships and fellowship opportunities on LinkedIn, or also a lot of scholarships are also posted on LinkedIn as well, and you can get information from LinkedIn for scholarships as well. So when you're applying for scholarships independently, they will ask you to write an essay. It can be on a different topic. They can ask you to write an essay, how the scholarship will help you, why should we give you the scholarship. And if there's a word limit of 300 words or 500 words, try to be in that range. Don't try to exceed that, because you're trying to see how can you utilize that limitation. How can you utilize that limitation and express yourself in that 500 words, 300 words. A lot of scholarships that you apply for doesn't ask for personal statement, but some scholarship may ask for personal statements. So if they're asking for personal statement, make sure that you really emphasize on your personal statement that why are you asking for scholarship, who you are, and we recommend that you be honest. You don't have to be someone else to write a personal statement. Just put your story on there. And then gather all the academic records at all the institutions that you have attended anywhere in the world, because they're going to see how you performed at each level of your educational grade. And then when you're applying for fellowships and assistantships, they're going to ask for recommendation letters. So it is really important to understand that having good connections with your faculty and employer is crucially important, because these are the people who are going to write these letter of recommendations. So make sure you reach out to them if you're applying for assistantships or fellowships or even scholarships. And also, we did not list it here to have your resume well prepared, because they're going to look for your resume, what you have done in the past, if you have done any kind of internships. So that's going to help you out. So that concludes our webinar today. As I mentioned earlier, we offer free advising services. You can go on our website, educationusa.pk/register and sign up for our advising services, and an advisor would be in touch with you. And if you have any specific questions, you can send us an email at advising@usefp.org. We also have a Facebook page if you want to get information on personal statements or how to interview with visa officers at the US consulate in Pakistan. We have done a lot of sessions on there as well, so you can watch that for your information. So you can drop down your questions on Q&A box and we will answer them now. Okay. So there is a question, can we apply for Fulbright if you're graduating from undergrad in December 23? Yes, you can, but you wouldn't be able to apply this year. You would have to apply for the next cycle, which begins next year in 2024. So there is a question. I'm a business student. It's my last year and I look forward for my master's in the US. What is the minimum GPA required for it to enroll in master's in the US? That would be 3.0. Most of the schools ask for master's level GPA to be 3.0. There is a question, how to find scholarships in the field of music. So you would have to see which school you're going to, and most of the scholarships are listed in their financial aid section. So just click their tab and see what type of independent scholarships they have. And if you're planning, you can also apply for Fulbright under that field. There's a question, how much GRE score required in each module? I'm assuming you're asking in regards to Fulbright, so you are required to score 145. There's a question, how I get the application form. I believe you're asking for Fulbright. Fulbright is, you have to submit that application online. The question about Fulbright, what other thing increased chance to get Fulbright scholarship? Your whole application would help you as much as information you can provide, your letter of recommendations, your resume, all that stuff would help you increase the chances of getting Fulbright scholarship. There's not one component that will just increase the chance of getting Fulbright, but you do have to meet the minimum requirements to getting Fulbright scholarship. Here's a question. I have completed associate's degree program in computer science. So can I apply for master's degree? In order to apply for master's degree in the US, you need to have 16 years of education from Pakistan. So there is a question. Once we apply for PhD, do we have to ask for fellowships or they automatically consider for it? And if I get a fellowship, how much will I will be my own expenditure? So when you're applying for PhDs, you have to apply for fellowships as well. You need to reach out to the faculty of the program that you're applying to, and you need to submit your resume to that particular faculty, and they will offer you the substantial amount of fellowship. Most of the time, fellowships are going to cover your whole PhD program, and they're also going to give you stipend to attend conferences in different states, because you have to do research and you need to put different areas in your research. So they will give you stipend on that as well. The most I have seen that the PhD student on an F1 visa pay on semester base would be between 1,500 and 2,000. And again, this would depend from each university to university as well. So there's a question how to apply for assistantships in advance. So you would just apply once you're accepted into the program. You can, once you're applying for the program, you can let the program director know that you would like to apply for assistantships, and then they will guide you, because there are deadlines for applying for assistantship. What is early to start looking for fellowship? Whenever you start researching for your schools, start researching for fellowships and assistantships as well. How to apply for assistantship scholarship? You would apply on the school's website. Here's a question: how much does the cost of living matter state to state? It matters a lot. So the tool that we provided, numbeo.com, please go on that website and try to compare which state you're trying to go to, and what is your dream state and what is your target state, I would say, and see how much expensive it is. So just to add more onto that question, if you are trying to, let's compare Iowa and California. If you look at California, it's more expensive. And if you look at Iowa and compare it, Iowa is not as expensive as California. What kind of recommendation letters are advised based on scholarship for just for the studies? So if you're applying for a scholarship, not all scholarship would ask for a letter of recommendations. Very few school scholarship will ask for recommendation letters. So when they're asking for a letter of recommendations for scholarships, they're really wanting to know from your professors that how have you performed in your courses and what makes you stand out in those courses, and how would this scholarship help you? So can you please explain what includes the evaluation and CVIS fee? CVIS fee is something that schools use to register you into the F1 portal. That is very necessary for immigration purposes. And evaluation is your transcripts which includes all the academic grades that you have received so far. And it will evaluate what let's say if you went to school in Pakistan, what your Pakistani educational credentials are equivalent to US educational credentials. How can I prepare a proposal for my current employer to sponsor my education? That's a very good question. A lot of multinational companies are looking to send their current employers to go abroad, come back and work for them. So I would say see first if your company has that option. And if there is that option, I would say reach out to your supervisor and see what are the requirements. Do you recommend that I have a 309 on my GRE? Should I give a GRE again to make Fulbright app more competitive? Minimum score for GRE on each section would be 145. That's all I would say. If you need more information on that, I recommend going on to our US EFP page and looking into see if you should give it again or not. But as long as you have scored 145 on each section, you should be fine to meet that minimum threshold. Do Fulbrighters end up going to private universities as well? Fulbrighters are placed at any universities in the US based upon your degree requirements and your personal statement that you have written. So it's not limited to just sending students to public universities. How can I use my LinkedIn to get funding? So you're going to use LinkedIn not for funding purposes to basically making professional connections with the professor, because you're going to work with these professors and see if this professor likes your proposal of the research at PhD program. And if they like it, they will basically hire you and tell the program director that they want you for their program. I wouldn't be able to advise you on loans at all. That would be your personal decision. Aliza Akbar, I'm not really understanding your question, but if you can send us an email, I will look, we can have one-on-one session with you and we can answer your question in details. So I can only advise students going to for students trying to achieve higher education in the US. If you're trying to look at different countries, that's your own, you would have to look that up at your own personal time. So there's a question, will there be more sessions in the future? Of course, we host sessions very frequently. You can go on our page and access our upcoming events and access events. We do have a very good session coming up next week about different types of applications for graduate school. So there's a very good question here. Is there any chance of getting an admissions or a scholarship for master's with 2.5 CGPA in bachelor's with 3 years of work experience? So when you're applying for a master's, the standard GPA would be 3.0. There are some very, very few and competitive schools that may take you in if you have a lower GPA. However, you would have to explain that in your personal statement, what happened that dropped your GPA that below. And then 3 years of work experience. Not all fields require you to have work experience. There are very few majors that would ask you to have work experience. So you just have to see. I'm not sure what your background is. I would highly recommend you to sign up for our advising services, and we can have one-on-one session with you and advise you in details. There's a question about the letter of recommendation. Is it necessary that the person who will be writing should know us for or have worked with us for a certain period of time? I would say if you're getting a letter of recommendation from a professor, you should have at least have attended one of his courses in a semester, or at least you have worked with that professor for at least 1 year. There's a question, I don't have GRE, can I apply for PhD? If you're trying to apply for PhD independently, then there are a lot of schools that are still test optional. So you can see which schools are test optional and you can apply for them. Or if you're planning to apply for PhD program on a Fulbright scholarship, then GRE is mandatory. If I take a year off before applying, how would you recommend I utilize that year to maximize funding potential? I would say start saving in that year. Can Education USA help in narrowing down the universities for a specific degree or for master's or PhD? Yes, we can assist you. However, we would give you resources first, and we would ask you to narrow down the list based upon your preferences. At master's level, we ask students to at least have 10 schools on your hand, and advisors can help you narrow it down to 5 schools. Yes, we can do that. Can we apply for graduate assistantships for admissions? No, you have to get admitted for the program. However, if you're applying for a program and you want to get assistantships, you need to mention in your application that you're interested. For graduate funding, is it necessary to make contact with the professors? At PhD level? Yes, but however, at master's level, not necessarily. There's a question, my GPA is below 3.0, and if I get good GRE scores, do I have a chance to get Fulbright scholarship? That's a very good question. So you need to have, of course, the GRE has to be 145. There's no minimum GPA requirement when you apply for Fulbright. Your whole application is seen, your personal statement is seen, your academic record is seen, which is your transcript, your study objectives are seen, so stuff of that nature is seen. So there's a question, is there any medical field offered for masters in Fulbright? Just know that Fulbright will not cover anything in medicine where you would have to interact with patients. However, if you're trying to get into medical field where you're doing research, then yes. There's a question, does your research profile do overweight acceptance to the PhDs? What if one don't have publications? So you don't have to have publications to get into PhD program, because PhD is going to teach you how to research and then publish your work. But if you have any publications which you have worked with professors in the past, that's going to help you out, yes. What does PhD cost on average, and how long is it in the US? So a PhD can cost anywhere between $30,000 to $40,000 or even more, depending on which university, if it's a private or state, and it can take anywhere between 3 to 6 years. Do all universities require IELTS? A lot of universities are still test optional due to COVID, so you just have to search which one are those. The question the student is asking, is it fine to show the proof of GRE registration at the time of Fulbright application submission? I'm planning to take the test on April 29. The answer is no. You have, even if you take your test on April 11th and the deadline is April 12th, you can go, once you take your GRE test, you do get your unofficial scores. So when you're filling out your application for Fulbright, just lock in your unofficial scores and then the date of your test. And then within 7 days, you should get the official results. But you should be able to submit your scores if you take it before April 12th. And if you submit your application on April 12th and you have not taken your GRE, your application will not be entertained. Okay, there is a student. I secured an admission in a university. They did offer me some scholarship. However, there is still a lot of ground to cover. I would need more details to answer your questions. I would recommend you making an appointment with us, and we can advise you on details. I will be graduating this summer. When will be the next round of application for Fulbright scholarship? Next year. Is GPA above 3 enough to apply for a scholarship? The minimum requirement to applying for scholarship in most schools is 3.0. So if you have anything above 3, it's great. Okay, I have 2.99 CGPA and bachelor's. However, I have done lots of volunteer work and professional work during the study. Is it possible to get full scholarship in the US? I would say it's not impossible, but you would just have to write in a personal statement that what happened, that your GPA is not 3.0. And again, getting full funded scholarships at graduate level is extremely competitive. So if you are looking for fully funded scholarship, I would say start your research as soon as possible. Can we get a recommendation letter from our current employer? Yes, you can. That would be ideal. I'm graduating next month. Can I apply for Fulbright this year? Yes, you can apply for Fulbright this year. However, you need to meet the minimum requirement of GRE, and as long as you can provide us with your final transcript by December 2023, you can go ahead and apply. Can you please guide about GRE preparation? So we have done a lot of GRE workshops and webinars. So you can, and they're posted on our Facebook page. Even Fulbright alumni have done given more explanation about GRE, so you can access those on our Facebook page. Do we have to apply for scholarships before applying to the university? You would apply for a university and a scholarship at the same time. Yeah. So there are a lot of questions that are asking specific details. For those students, I need more details before I can answer and start advising you. I highly encourage signing up for our advising services, and an advisor will be in touch with you. Once an advisor is in touch with you, you can send them your questions and we can schedule advising appointment and guide you better. So I'm going to take one last question. Also, I am going to type my personal email, my work personal email. If you would like to talk to me directly, just send me an email and we can schedule an appointment with you. Do you charge for these individual appointments? No, not at all. All of our services are free. Can I get my GRE test fee reimbursed by the USEFP? So if you're planning to apply for Fulbright scholarship, as you know, if you're going for a master's level, the Fulbright scholarship is almost 3 crores. And if you're going for PhD, it's about 6 crore, you can just double it. So if you're trying to get this big amount of scholarship, we would say 60,000 rupees for a GRE is not a lot. However, if you feel like you need reimbursement, there's only few reimbursement, and there are some criteria for that. If you're attending public universities in Pakistan, and your score is really at the benchmark, you can submit your receipt for reimbursement. However, there are only 30 to 40 slots for reimbursement, and it's on first come and first served basis. But personally, if I was applying for Fulbright, I would not mind paying $220 for GRE because the scholarship amount is great. Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a great session. I have mentioned my email in the chat. You can send me an email and we can if you want, we can schedule an inviting appointment. Our link is on your screen right now. You can register for our services. You can access our upcoming events. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day.